morning, Your Honor. Kouri's mother, Lisa Darden, is here in the courtroom. She's actually, I feel, given me the privilege to read her words. She was concerned about her ability to read them herself. Your Honor, Kouri is my daughter. I write to you today carrying a grief that words struggle to hold. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge the loss of Eric. He was my son-in-law, my friend, and a truly wonderful father. Eric had a kind heart and a generous spirit. He was deeply loved, and he will never be forgotten by me or by the many people whose lives he touched. Eric once saved my life, and I have carried that gratitude with me every day since. His legacy lives on most clearly through the 3 beautiful boys he left behind. Your Honor, I speak today as a mother and as a grandmother. The children are my greatest concerns. These 3 boys have endured unimaginable loss and upheaval in their young lives. They lost their father, then their mother, then the sense of safety and continuity every child deserves. Their world has changed again and again through no choice of their own. Whatever sentence is imposed will shape their lives forever. Whatever sentence is imposed, that was their choice. I will continue to watch the boys grow, whether at school events, or sporting activities, and throughout their lives. I will keep them in my prayers, hoping they grow into emotionally stable and resilient young men. Kouri is more than the worst day of her life. She is a mother who has devoted herself to her children since the day they were born. Before all of this, she was deeply involved in their schooling, their sports, their faith, and their community. She coached teams, volunteered weekly at school, led youth programs, and taught her boys compassion through service, from food banks to flood relief to helping firefighters and families in need. Her life centered on her family and on helping others. In many ways, everyone impacted by this case has suffered loss. However, the greatest burden has fallen on 3 innocent children. These boys have experienced repeated disruption and trauma at an age when stability is essential. Before these events, they lived in a loving home with 2 devoted parents. They were surrounded by family, supported emotionally and financially, and deeply connected to both their mother and father. Their lives revolved around school, sports, family traditions, and feeling safe and loved. That sense of security was taken from them in stages. First, they lost their father suddenly and without preparation. They were informed by officials rather than being guided gently by a parent, a moment that forever changed their childhood. Their mother then spent more than a year helping them navigate grief, modeling compassion and emotional resilience, and working closely with them to understand loss in age-appropriate ways. She even found creative ways to help them cope emotionally during this painful period. Then, they lost daily access to their mother. Once again, they were told life-altering news by strangers rather than family. The boys were moved between placements, disrupting routines and emotional progress, despite beginning to feel settled and supported. Throughout this time, they maintained a meaningful and positive relationship with their mother through letters, phone calls, visits, and counseling. Later, they were moved again, against their expressed wishes, away from family caregivers and trusted relationships. Each transition compounded their confusion, anxiety, and grief. Children need continuity to heal, yet these boys have experienced repeated separations from the people they rely on most. As a grandmother who helped raise these children, I have also lost daily contact with them. They were a central part of my life, just as I was part of theirs. The separation from their maternal family has been devastating, not only to me, but to the boys themselves, who deserve access to all safe and loving family connections. Your Honor, these children have already endured more than most adults will in a lifetime. Being placed in the middle of adult proceedings and repeatedly confronted with painful realities risks further emotional harm. They love their mother. They need reassurance, not fear, healing, not more loss. I ask the court to carefully consider the cumulative impact on these children and the importance of preserving their emotional well-being and future stability when determining your appropriate sentence. Your Honor, I ask the court to take a moment to consider Kouri Richins as a whole person, beyond headlines or assumptions, and to understand the life she built before this case. Kouri has been driven, disciplined, and committed to growth from a young age. She graduated from high school in 2007, completing her studies a year early. She continued her education and earned her associate's degree in 2010. In 2012, she obtained her bachelor's degree, the same year she became a mother for the first time. In 2013, Kouri married Eric, and together they began building a family. Their second son was born in 2014. Kouri continued pursuing education while raising her children, earning her master's degree in 2017, followed by the birth of their third son shortly thereafter. Professionally, Kouri has consistently worked to better herself and provide for her family. She obtained her real estate license in 2019 and later earned her general contractor's license in 2021, achievements that reflected her work ethic, independence, and determination. In 2022, Kouri experienced a devastating loss with the sudden death of her husband. Despite profound grief, she sought constructive ways to cope and help others, publishing a children's book in 2023 focused on helping children process loss. After her arrest in 2023, Kouri did not retreat from self-improvement. While incarcerated, she earned her paralegal certificate in 2025. In 2026, she completed her MBA, pursuing education under extraordinarily difficult circumstances. She continues to seek opportunities for further education, demonstrating perseverance and a commitment to growth. Your Honor, this timeline reflects a pattern of responsibility, resilience, and continued effort to better herself, even in the most challenging moments of her life. I would like to illustrate Kouri's character through her actions and the way she lived her life, particularly as a wife, mother, and member of her community. Kouri was deeply devoted to her family. She was a committed wife to Eric and a hands-on present mother to their 3 sons. Their marriage was built on partnership and mutual support. Kouri consistently supported Eric in his career, hobbies, and interests, including his involvement in sports and coaching. She encouraged his passions and stood by him throughout their life together. In return, Eric expressed his commitment to caring for his wife and children, and their shared priorities were apparent in the way they lived and parented. As parents, Kouri and Eric focused on raising kind, engaged, and active children. Kouri was closely involved in her son's education, sports, and activities. She volunteered weekly at their school, coached youth soccer and basketball, served as a scout leader, and was present at practices, games, and events. Her time, energy, and focus were always directed toward her children's well-being and development. Beyond her immediate family, Kouri consistently showed compassion for others. She was active in community service and believed strongly in teaching her children empathy through example. Together, they volunteered at food banks, participated in flood relief by filling sandbags for elderly residents, baked cookies for firefighters during fire season, and assembled care packages for families and individuals in need. She also helped ensure that children in the community had proper winter clothes by donating nearly 100 pairs of snow boots to a local elementary school. During the holidays, Kouri made extraordinary efforts to help others, purchasing, wrapping, and delivering hundreds of gifts to families who were struggling. She also demonstrated thoughtfulness in her extended work family by assembling personalized gift boxes and organizing holiday gatherings to bring people together. In 2023, following her husband's death, Kouri published a children's book designed to help grieving children process loss. She donated hundreds of copies to children who had lost a parent and visited schools to read to students dealing with grief. Although the book achieved some commercial success, her intention was not profit. It was to help children feel less alone during one of the most difficult experiences a child can face. Kouri has always viewed her greatest accomplishment as her family, her husband, her children, and the home they built together. Her loyalty to her family is unwavering. As an aunt, she has been a consistent and loving presence in her nieces' and nephews' lives, providing child care support, attending milestones and school events, and assisting her siblings whenever they needed her. She has been the person who organizes family gatherings, holidays, and shared tradition, keeping the family connected. Faith has also played an important role in Kouri's life. She and her children regularly attended church and participated in faith-based community activities, reinforcing values of service, compassion, and responsibility. Your Honor, these are not isolated gestures. They reflect a long-standing pattern of generosity, responsibility, and care for others. Kouri's life before this case was defined by service to her family and community, and by her commitment to raising her children to be compassionate and engaged members of society. From a young age, Kouri demonstrated responsibility and a strong work ethic. While still in high school, she worked nights, weekends, and holidays to help support her aunt's business, using her earnings to pay her own way through college. That sense of responsibility never diminished. She continued to support extended family members whenever they needed help. Only 3 weeks after losing her husband, Kouri faced another profound loss with the death of her uncle. Even while grieving deeply herself, she stepped forward to help her aunt by taking on the responsibility of planning the funeral. This pattern, putting others' needs ahead of her own pain, has been consistent throughout her life. Kouri has always believed that no one should have to navigate grief or hardship alone. Kouri and I share an exceptionally close relationship as mother and daughter. She has stood beside me during some of the most difficult moments of my life, including surgeries and radiation treatments, providing care, support, and comfort without hesitation. Our relationship is built on mutual reliance, trust, and love. I, in turn, have played an active role in her family's life, helping care for Eric, the boys, and Kouri, and being deeply involved in their daily lives. Kouri also shares a strong bond with her brother. Though close in age, and like many siblings growing up, it was the loss of their father shortly after high school that solidified their understanding of the importance of family. Since then, the relationship has only grown stronger. They have supported each other through life's milestones, challenges, and joys. As a mother, Kouri has always made sure her children felt surrounded by family. She intentionally included her brother in holidays, family gatherings, and everyday moments, reinforcing the value of connection and belonging. She welcomed her brother's wife into the family from the very beginning, making a deliberate effort to ensure she felt included and supported. She has constantly offered help with family milestones, celebrations, and responsibilities, always striving to ease stress for others. Kouri takes pride in maintaining a close-knit family. She believes that shared time, whether during holidays, sporting events, small gatherings, or simply simple evenings together, is essential. Creating those moments of connection has always mattered deeply to her, and she has worked intentionally to keep her family united. Kouri played an important and deeply integrated role within the Richins family, particularly during times of hardship. When Eric's mother passed away in Hawaii, Kouri provided steady emotional support to the entire family and assisted in organizing funeral arrangements, stepping in wherever help was needed during a very painful period. Her commitment to Eric's family was genuine and enduring. At one point, Eric's mother expressed that Kouri was not simply her daughter-in-law, but her daughter, a reflection of the closeness and trust Kouri had earned within the family. Kouri and Eric prioritized time with extended family, creating meaningful memories together, including regular visits to St. George, Utah, to spend time with Eric's grandmother. When one of Eric's sisters faced unemployment, Kouri helped her secure work at the hospital where she herself was employed. She also routinely provided childcare for her sister-in-law's children, allowing them time together as a couple. Her involvement went beyond logistical help. She always participated in family milestones, including serving in a bridal party and assisting with wedding planning for another of Eric's sisters. During a particularly difficult period in that sister's life, Kouri accompanied her to a self-help retreat, offering both emotional support and companionship. Within the Richins family, Kouri often served as a source of calm and connection. She consistently worked to ease tensions, provide comfort, and maintain relationships during challenging moments. Her efforts contribute significantly to the overall well-being of the family. Kouri's compassion extended well beyond her immediate and extended family. She opened her home to the parents of a friend whose house had been damaged, offering them a safe place during a difficult time. When another friend's parents lacked firewood, their sole source of heat during the winter, Kouri arranged for a truckload of wood to ensure they stayed warm. She maintained close, supportive friendships, participated fully in friends' major life events, and was actively involved in the lives of their children. As a neighbor, Kouri was equally attentive and caring. Her home was offering a gathering place for neighborhood children, and she routinely prepared meals for parents working late or offered help to neighbors facing illness, including one undergoing chemotherapy. Her generosity was never performative. It was quiet, consistent, and motivated by genuine concern for others. Kouri is not a perfect person, but she is an authentic one. Her life has been marked by steady acts of kindness, loyalty, and service toward her family, her friends, and her community. She has always found purpose in easing the burden of others and helping people through difficult moments. Following Kouri's separation from her children, they were placed in a living situation that differed from what they expressed as their preference, despite having strong and meaningful bonds with extended family who had long played an active role in helping raise them. As young children, they had little control over these decisions, which added to their sense of uncertainty and loss. Kouri's sons are now facing significant emotional challenges in their day-to-day lives. They are processing grief, separation, and repeated changes, all at an age when stability is critical. Like their mother, Kouri's eldest son is especially sensitive and expressive, and he has struggled deeply with these transitions. All three boys are currently receiving counseling, which has been essential in helping them cope. Kouri has consistently supported therapeutic intervention and has emphasized the importance of counseling not only for each child individually, but for the family as a whole. In particular, she has advocated for additional individual support for her eldest child, recognizing his specific emotional needs. The circumstances surrounding their separation and the rules governing communications have made it difficult for Kouri and her children to openly share their feelings with one another. This limitation has taken an emotional toll on both the boys and their mother. Important thoughts, reassurances, and emotions often remain unspoken, creating additional stress and sadness. As a mother, Kouri experiences deep anguish over her inability to comfort her children as she once did. She worries constantly about their emotional well-being and struggles with the pain of knowing they are hurting while being unable to fully support them. Her concern for her sons remains constant and unwavering. Kouri has endured profound emotional and personal suffering since the loss of her husband. She is grieving the absence of the man she loved and built a life with, while navigating separation from her children and family under intense public scrutiny. The weight of these losses is immense, and it has affected not only Kouri, but her entire family, her mother, her children, and those who love her. Despite being incarcerated, Kouri has continued to demonstrate resilience and personal responsibility. Within the confines of jail, she has dedicated herself to education and self-improvement, using her time to study and work toward meaningful goals. These efforts reflect her character and her desire to grow, contribute, and remain a constructive presence, even under extremely difficult circumstances. Like many marriages, Kouri and Eric faced challenges. When difficulties arose, they chose to address them responsibly by seeking marriage counseling rather than turning away from one another. Those efforts strengthened their relationship. By all accounts from those closest to them, they were in a period of renewed connection and commitment, focused on their family and their future together. Your Honor, I stand before you as Kouri's mother. I love my daughter. I have known her for her entire life, not just through this case. I cannot speak to every aspect of what the court has considered, but I can speak to who she is as a human being, as a mother, and as a member of her family. I do not believe that Kouri did this, nor do I believe Kouri could possibly be capable of this crime. I can't validate what she did financially one way or another, and that's something Kouri will have to live with. I respectfully ask the court to consider a sentence that holds Kouri accountable for the jury's verdict, while still allowing for the possibility of mercy and hope. A sentence without the opportunity for parole would permanently separate her from her children and leave no room for redemption. Kouri's life has meaning, especially to her 3 sons and her family, and I respectfully ask that the sentence reflect not only accountability, but also the potential for rehabilitation and the profound long-term impact on innocent children. Your Honor, I ask from a mother's heart that Kouri be given a sentence that allows the possibility of a future, one in which she can continue to grow and one day be a positive presence in life and her children's lives again. I firmly believe the jury reached an incorrect conclusion and that this outcome represents a profound injustice driven by personal bias. I do not believe Kouri is capable of committing murder. No one understands her loves her children as deeply as their mother does. Thank you for listening, Your Honor. I love you, Kouri, Carter, Ashton, and Weston. Her story does not end with this sentence. It is the strength of her comeback that will define it.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis.
Your Honor, at this time we would ask Renee Odom. She is going to read her own letter. We ask that she approach the podium, and I will provide it to the court and the prosecution as well.
Of course. Renee, good morning.
Good morning.
One moment, please. Thank you. Renee, please proceed.
My name is Renee Odom, and I am here today as the sister of Kouri Richins. I want to begin by saying nothing I share today is meant to excuse or lessen the seriousness of what has brought us here. Eric's life was taken, and that loss is permanent. I want to acknowledge Eric by name and say that I loved him. He was kind to me. He was a part of my life, a part of my children's life, and a part of my family. He matters deeply, and he is missed. This tragedy has devastated our family, and its deepest impact continues to fall on Kouri's 3 boys. For more than 3 years now, they have been unable to see or speak with their mother. They have lost their father, and at the same time, they have lost access to their mom. Even in separation, Kouri has never stopped being their mother. She writes to her boys every single week. She reaches out every birthday, every holiday, holding on to that connection with everything she has and reminding them that they are loved. Kouri is my baby sister, and she has been an integral part of my life and the lives of my children. She has shown up for our family in ways that are impossible to count. I was there at her graduation from high school. I was there for the wedding of Kouri and Eric, moments filled with love, hope, and dreams for the future. She was there for my wedding and the birth of my son. She was there for me when I graduated college. She stood beside me at the baptism of both of my daughters. She poured her heart into giving my oldest daughter a beautiful sweet 16. These were not obligations to her. This is who she is. Kouri has always been the glue that held our family together. She hosts every Christmas. She planned every family vacation and made sure that no one ever felt forgotten or left behind. She believes deeply in helping others, and she has lived with this belief throughout her life. Even from behind bars, Kouri has continued to help people, offering support and encouragement and kindness any way she can. That desire to be of service has never left her. Kouri is a great sister, an awesome aunt, an amazing daughter, and she will always be a devoted mother. She is also the smartest person I know. Kouri has earned 2 master's degrees and is applying to a PhD program. Growth and learning and becoming better for herself and others have always mattered to her. Most of all, she loved her husband and her children with everything that she was. I continue to struggle to reconcile this tragedy with the loving sister and the mother I've always known. I understand and respect the court's responsibility to impose a just and lawful sentence. I am not here to challenge the verdict or to minimize the harm that has occurred. I only ask that the court see the full human picture, the pain, the accountability, the lifelong consequences that are already being carried. Please leave room for hope of a life with her boys. The impact of this tragedy will remain with Kouri and her children for the rest of their lives. Our family deeply feels the absence of her presence and that of her boys, her guidance and her love. I love you, Kouri, and I will always stand by you. Thank you, Your Honor, for letting me speak and considering my words.
Your Honor, at this time, I'm going to read a letter from Bree Darden. Your Honor, at this time, we'd like to read a brief letter from Bree Darden. That is Kouri's sister-in-law, who also worked with her at her real estate business. I know Your Honor heard some testimony about that. She has a newborn baby, so she can't be here. Your Honor, I was introduced to the Richins family around 8 years ago, excuse me, and was able to have been around Kouri, Eric, and the boys since the youngest was 1. I spent many days, weekends, holidays, birthdays, barbecues, etc. with them all, and was able to learn so much about the family dynamic and the love they had for one another. No, their family wasn't perfect. No one's is. But those boys were loved beyond belief by both parents. Kouri and Eric did everything for the boys, to protect them, to teach them, to encourage them, to show them love, and mostly to show them 2 loving parents. My heart goes out to the 3 boys, as they do not deserve to be going through all this, as well as they do not deserve to be alienated from one side of their family. I miss them dearly every day. To know Kouri is to know the love she has in her heart. Kouri is one of the most selfless and caring people I know. She lived for those boys and lived to be the best wife she could be. Yes, she made mistakes in her marriage, as we know. So did Eric. But at the end of the day, they chose each other and their family. As a loving mother, exceptional caretaker, and benevolent humanitarian, Kouri was truly a devoted volunteer. She never stood still when she knew she could help another, embodying the definition of true character. From the moment this sudden, unexplainable tragedy occurred, there has been a distaste for Kouri for personal reasons rather than factual reasons. From allegations made by individuals she regarded as family, to authorities not conducting a systemically correct investigation and then not being given a suitable, unbiased venire. The conclusion of this case seemed inevitable. Although I'm not here to argue the verdict, I am here to help provide perspective on views you are unable to hear about. Kouri is a mother, a sister, a daughter, an aunt, widow, and at the end of the day, an imperfect person striving for grace. She is someone whom the community trusted, neighbors enjoyed, and her boys counted on as a supporter. I respectfully ask that the court consider the totality of her character and her full life history when making a determination. Your Honor, the next individual that spoke is Kouri's aunt. This is Lisa's sister. Her name is Doreen Kouri.
Thank you.
Your Honor, thank you for allowing me to speak today. I have spent many sleepless nights trying to find the right words for this moment because it is heartbreaking to stand here and speak about someone I care deeply about in a courtroom like this. I believe in you, Kouri, and I'm very proud to be your aunt. I stand before the court not to minimize the seriousness of this case, but to speak about the person I've known outside of these proceedings. The woman I know is not the monster these proceedings may have made her appear to be. When I think about her, I do not think about charges, headlines, or verdicts. I think about the mother I watched love her children with every part of herself. I think about the woman who worked hard to build a better life through education, determination, and sacrifice. I think about someone who wanted more not only for herself, but for her children and the people she loved. Her children were never just part of her life. They were her entire world. I watched her celebrate their accomplishments, comfort them in difficult times, and carry the weight of motherhood every single day. She loved fiercely, deeply, and unconditionally. Eric and those boys were her life. Both Eric and Kouri were very loving and attentive parents. They were solid, they loved hard, and they played hard. I also watched her work tirelessly to educate herself and create stability for her family. She pushed herself because she believed in building a meaningful future. She was proud of what she accomplished, but even more proud of being a mother. This conviction does not erase the years of humanity, goodness, and compassion that existed before this moment. I know there are people who may only see the charge or the verdict, but I ask the court to remember a person is more than the worst moment of their life, or in this case, more than a verdict that many of us still struggle to understand and accept. The woman I know is compassionate, intelligent, nurturing, and deeply human. I do not believe she's cruel or beyond redemption. I believe there's still goodness in her, and I know there are many others who believe that too. Whatever sentence is imposed today will not only affect her, it will echo through the lives of her children, her family, and everyone who loves her for years to come. Her children still need their mother's guidance, love, voice, and presence in whatever way they can still have it. I understand the weight of the court's responsibility, and I speak with respect for these proceedings. I only ask that when sentencing is considered, the court remembers the whole person standing before you today. Not only this moment, but the years she spent loving, learning, sacrificing, and being devoted mother. I love you, Kouri, and I love those precious boys. I ask for mercy, I ask for compassion, and I ask that the court see the humanity in her so that so many of us have seen for years. All right, the next one is an individual that did not want their name read in the public, so I'm going to provide it to the court and the prosecution only. This is a close friend of the family. To the Honorable Judge Mrazek, I'm writing to respectfully share my personal relationship and observations with the Richins family and 3 young boys, and to ask that you consider sentencing Kouri to 25 years to life rather than life without the possibility of parole. From 2017 to 2019, I had the privilege of working as a babysitter for Kouri and Eric's 3 children. I was able to view this family at a time when things in life were good for them. The youngest, Weston, was still in diapers, and we worked on potty training together. What struck me most during that time was the stable, loving, and orderly home the 3 boys had to grow up in. Kouri was a young mother, close in age to 2 of my own children, and she'd established a true house of order. The home was beautifully decorated. I particularly remember the bright fall decor. The walls were lined with photos of the boys at different ages, and they had a wonderful playroom over the garage. The family worked together, played hard together, and clearly loved one another. I recognized the effort and pride in caring for her family. When she was out of town one week, she left detailed meal plans for me to use the crock pot, so Eric could come home each night to dinner with the boys. Those meals were so good that I replicated them for my own family. I was so impressed by her age progression photo display in the hallway that I had canvases made of my own grandchildren in a similar fashion. I even copied some of her simple but festive fall decorations and bought similar cowboy kid toys for my grandchildren after seeing how much her boys enjoyed them. Kouri's positive influence extended beyond her own family. I brought many of her ideas home with me. I do not wish to minimize the tragedy of this case. I watched the funeral online and was heartbroken, especially hearing young Carter say he would now be the man of the house. I believe Kouri deeply cares for her children, and I have to believe they love her as well. 3 boys' lives will be forever affected by the court's decision. I believe in the possibility of rehabilitation and the value of preserving hope. I respectfully ask that you not eliminate the chance that one day these 3 sons would be able to make their own choice as to whether or not to have a relationship with their mother. Kouri is not a threat to society. Please give her the opportunity to serve her sentence with the possibility of someday returning to her family. Thank you for your time and considering my perspective. Your Honor, the next individual that's going to be addressing the court is going to do it himself, and that is Mr. Greg Hall, and he's here to read his statement to the court.
Sir, please proceed.
Good morning. Good morning, Your Honor. Before I say anything else, I want to express my deepest sympathy and most sincere condolences to the Richins and Darden's families. Nothing I say today is meant to diminish the weight of what has brought us into this courtroom today. My name is Greg Hall. I have known Kouri for over 7 years, both personally and professionally. And we have stayed in daily contact by phone, text, and in-person visits throughout her entire incarceration here in Summit County. I am here today to share with you what I have witnessed firsthand about the person I know. In the years before Kouri was incarcerated, she made a habit of looking for people who were struggling. She not only volunteered for many years at children's schools and donated, which you've heard about the 100 pairs of snow boots, but she also did follow up to make sure that those children had clothes. She has volunteered at the soup kitchen for years and brought her boys along with her because she wanted them to teach them about service and kindness to others. When Kouri found out a neighbor had been diagnosed with cancer, she anonymously arranged for a massage therapist to visit her. When my own wife was in an auto accident, a care package showed up at our home. If a family was having a difficult time purchasing a home, she would offer to take little or no commission in order to help them. Please know that none of these things were ever done for recognition. They were done because all she ever wanted to do was good. Your Honor, what I would like the court to understand the most is that the goodness and kindness toward other people that defined Kouri before her arrest has not gone away since being incarcerated. When new inmates arrive frightened and disorientated, Kouri Kouri is the first to step in. She helps them get their footing in an environment that is unfamiliar and frightening to them. She's also tutored other inmates working to further their education. She has helped women who cannot read or write navigate through the system and draft letters to their family on the outside. When women in her unit receive bad news from home, she is the first to sit with them and comfort them. She has used her time inside to study, and she takes her studies very seriously. She has earned multiple degrees, including a master's degree since being incarcerated, because she wants to be of use to other incarcerated women who struggle with literacy, with their legal paperwork, and with the simple daily reality of being inside. She enjoys studying religion and ethics and the practical application they have in our lives. She attends weekly church services and has helped to create new programs within the jail that other inmates now rely on. She studies late into the night, every night. She prays for her boys and for her family every day. She also prays for others in need. She writes to her sons, though her letters are returned to her unopened. She has not stopped trying to contact them, to express her love for them. Your Honor, the Kouri that I talk with each day is still filled with kindness, with goodness. Even to this day, as we speak to one another, she continues to ask and care about how people on the outside are doing. My family, her family, people we mutually know, before ever talking about herself. I'm not here to argue with the verdict of this court. I am here to tell you that the person I have known for over 7 years is still there, still trying, still useful to people around her in the small ways available to her to continue to be of service and provide acts of kindness. I only ask that the court please take this into consideration today. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir.
Your Honor, the next two letters are from individuals who are investors with Ms. Richins in her real estate business. Both of these individuals did experience losses of money. So although they may not be victims in this case, they, I guess, are technically victims in the case that is pending. So I think their perspective is important. The first one, for some reason, I only have one copy. I'm going to give just a moment for Mr. Bloodworth to read it. Then I'll read it, and then I'll hand it to the court.
Thank you.
Honorable Judge Mrazek, I'm writing to you regarding whatever sentence you need to impose on Kouri Richins. I implore you to impose the lowest sentence possible, including the possibility for parole. Due to the defense resting in this case, you and the jury only heard everything negative that could possibly be said about her from the prosecution, their witnesses, and the media. There was always another side of her that was not presented. As one of the investors in some of Kouri Richins' properties, she never asked that we invest. We always asked her after seeing the quality of the work done. She had a real estate license and got a general contractor's license. Yes, we made money on some of the properties, and yes, we lost money on the legacy property due to her arrest. She made sure we were aware that we could lose our investments. During the time we did spend with her, we found her to be honest, caring, super smart, and constantly talking about her love of Eric and her children. She adores those boys and was involved in all aspects of their lives and very proud of all of them. I understand she has used the time in jail to obtain a second master's degree. I honestly believe that even spending time in prison, that she could still be a valuable and contributing member of society and hopefully one day have a relationship with her boys. I do totally understand how difficult it is to have someone's life in your hands, as I felt that weight as an Air Force flight nurse in Iraq many times, caring for our wounded warriors. We all need to have hope. Please do not take that from her, as she has already lost so much. And I'm not going to reveal the name on public.
Thank you.
The second one is also an investor, Your Honor, that did lose a significant amount of money. So some type of victim status here. Honorable Richard Mrozik, thank you, Your Honor, for the opportunity to address the court at this sentencing hearing. Actually, okay, I do have an extra of that one. Thank you for the opportunity to address the court at this sentencing hearing for Kouri Richins. May I first say that I was so impressed with your professionalism and demeanor during the trial. It appeared to me that you were very thoughtful in trying to judge fairly during the court proceedings. I would like to speak on my real estate experience with Kouri over the 3 years that I invested in 10 or more fix and flip home transactions. My wife, my son, and I were so impressed with Kouri and the great job she did in finding and remodeling the homes that we invested in. She worked hard in making those properties look beautiful after they were remodeled, and we all made money from them. We could not have been more proud of Kouri and happy for her and her family. Knowing from her brother Ronnie that she'd lost her father at a younger age, I told her once in a text message that I was unofficially adopting her as my daughter. She was a great mom for her boys, and she and Eric were so involved in their lives. What has happened since has been a tragedy for all the families involved. I never met Eric, but knew that he and his workers helped with some of the stonework on the remodels. Kouri and Eric helped stage a house that my son and I remodeled that Kouri found for us in Ogden. She listed it and had it sold in 3 days. Those were good times when the market was great for doing fix and flips, and we all benefited from it. Unfortunately, about the time of Eric's passing, the market changed and interest rates skyrocketed. Those who had house remodel properties suddenly found the buyer's market dried up and houses were not selling. We lost money as well as many of our friends in the real estate business. In watching some of the proceeding on court TV, I personally did not think that the state proved beyond a reasonable doubt that Kouri was guilty and responsible for Eric's death. I was surprised at the jury's verdict because it left doubt in my mind based on the testimonies given. Kouri has lost everything: her husband, her 3 young boys, friends, family, and her home. May I appeal to the court that her sentencing may grant her the possibility of parole at some future time. Thank you for your kind consideration. And also this name we are not reading out loud. We also have several very short statements from people who have worked with Ms. Richins in the jail. These are volunteers that give their time, no money, that come to the jail to help people that are incarcerated to try to better themselves and better their lives. This first one is from the art class facilitator, Ms. Katie Fish. Dear Judge Mrozik, I'm writing to you today on behalf of Ms. Kouri Richins. I have known Kouri over the last 2 years within the context of the educational programs for the Summit County Justice Center. I facilitate an art class as a representative of Mountain Life Church. In that art class, Kouri's carried herself with ease and warm regard to the other inmates and those of us present as facilitators. While she's shown care for the other inmates, she has also been very respectful to those of us facilitating. Even when she had been carrying challenging emotions, she's conducted herself with respect and grace. I understand that my interactions have been limited and have been laced with an expectation of certain polite behavior, but it is also not just a given that inmates will uphold that same respect and decorum. She has chosen to present with ease, care, and grace. From the brief conversations we've had about her life, I do believe she is a different person from who she was before being there. I hope and pray that her heart continues to be led toward faith and transformation. Thank you for your time. The next individual is another volunteer who teaches the class of biblical truth at the jail. This individual is named Eric Aper. Dear Honorable Richard Mrozik, My name is Eric Marty Aber. Through Mountain Life Church in Park City, I've been a volunteer at the Summit County Jail for 8 years, helping to teach biblical truth to those incarcerated there and leading church services on Sunday afternoons. Kouri Richins has been a regular attendee of these services since May of 2023, the start of her incarceration, and has shown an amazingly consistent and upbeat, positive attitude. Kouri contributes in the church service discussions. She frequently comes alongside other inmates and encourages them to attend church as well. Not only does she encourage church attendance, she also carries the applicable issues that we discuss back to the pod where she resides, looking to find the peace and love of Jesus Christ in difficult situations where the inmates live. I have witnessed her kindness in talking with and encouraging fellow inmates that they can succeed in drug treatment programs, complete education programs, and work to overcome frustrations that come with poor decisions that end up with incarceration. Please call me with any questions or let me know what I can do to help with regards to Kouri Richins. And then the last one is also, I believe, a pastor that leads church services.
Did you get this one?
Nope, I think I might pull that out. Yeah, I do. I don't think I have that one, so I may need, thank you. This next one then is from Craig Moline, who's one of the pastors as well. Can you read that while I'm doing this one? To the Honorable Richard Mrazek. Your Honor, I'm one of 4 people privileged to rotate in on Sunday afternoons for Mountain Life Church to lead church services with inmates at Summit County Jail. On any typical Sunday, we will pray with inmates, sing a couple of songs, no matter how bad it may sound, read a psalm and discuss it, and then teach on a subject from Scripture. For 3 years now, Kouri Richins has been in attendance to those services. We've seen her be hospitable to other inmates, inviting them to services. She's participated in discussions, and we've seen her as a help to other inmates. At the beginning, we gave her a study Bible that helps give life application hints along with an explanation of the text. I smiled recently when I saw her Bible sitting in front of her, and I observed it doesn't look new anymore. It looks like a well-read book. In our teaching and discussions, we have talked about being intentional about posturing our hearts before sovereign God and coming to Him with humility with our prayers. We talk about what it means to have a personal and intimate relationship with God through Jesus. She has acknowledged her faith in Jesus and acknowledged she has felt His peace in rough times, what is often expressed in the Psalms. She has commented, when life around you falls apart, we still have a God to lean into and who reaches down and cares for us and gives us comfort and hope. The Kouri I know will thrive where she is. She will trust in her God for peace, and she will pray. She will continue to pray for her loved ones, and she will be a positive influence to those around her. Respectfully submitted. And then one last letter from the jail. Oh, yes. This is also a volunteer, an individual named Heidi Tunney. Dear Judge Mrazek, I'm writing to you on behalf of Kouri Richins. I've been working with Kouri over the past 2+ years as a volunteer at the Summit County Correctional Facility. I taught her in the addiction recovery program. I attended church with her on occasion. I worked with her in a yoga program that I started at the facility for the incarcerated men and women too. I found Kouri to be very easy to work with and very enjoyable to be around. She was very thoughtful in her conversations in class. She always showed the utmost gratitude for anything that was done on her behalf. I also noticed that she was a leader among the other incarcerated women. She tended to be a peacemaker and stayed above the fray and away from the pettiness and challenges that sometimes arise among incarcerated women. The women in general respected her and looked to her as a leader. Kouri actually was one of the women that asked me to get a yoga program started for the incarcerated women. She saw a need there and she acted on it. I started and have taught that class for almost 2 years now. Kouri was the most dedicated student. She only missed a couple of times the entire time I taught, and the times she did miss were when she was meeting with attorneys or had court appearances. She has continued to attend even after she was found guilty at her trial. I wish nothing but the best for Kouri. She has a very long road ahead of her. I hope and pray she will continue to use the programs provided to those that are incarcerated to better herself and lead the other women around her. The last letter we have in this section is going to be read by Kouri's brother, Ronnie, who's here to read it himself. And then we're going to have, Mr. Ramos, there it is. Mr. Ramos make a few very brief comments. Then we'll conclude with our final three, and then we'll close out with Ms. Lewis and Ms. Richins, unless the court needs a break. Doing all right?
No, it might make sense to take a break before Ms. Richins, given what you have previewed regarding timing.
Great suggestion, Your Honor.
Okay.
All right, this is, if Ronnie can come on up.
Good morning, Honor. I'd like to address the court with actually a personal letter to bring to Kouri.
Okay.
Little sister, I love you. I miss you. I miss our random banter. I miss your calls. I miss your constantly over-the-top positive attitude every time we speak. I miss our game nights. I miss our stupid finger gun dance after we won a game. I miss our holidays. I miss you sending the boys to wake me up on Christmas morning, way too early after we stayed up way too late preparing Christmas for them so that it would be absolute perfect. I miss our Sundays together. I miss arguing with the boys about who's better, Messi or Ronaldo, Brady or Rogers. I miss our backyard games. I miss me and the boys running all over you at sports in the backyard and Eric getting mad because you weren't competitive enough and you were really just out there to have fun and laugh. I miss you constantly luring me into your newest ideas and getting me excited about them. I miss vacationing. I miss family volleyball. I miss playing Madden and FIFA with Eric and the boys. I miss your stupid goats. I miss the soccer games and the celebrations we created for the boys after they scored a goal. I miss Carter's smile and his obsession with goat videos. Ashton's freckles and his competitiveness. And Weston's baby blues and tenderheartedness. I miss hearing them say Wani and playing catch in your living room. I miss your family. I miss our family. I miss the life that was stolen. I miss the life that was stolen from us for reasons that we can't yet fully understand. We don't, with 100% certainty, know what happened to Eric. No one does, but we do know with 100% certainty that it wasn't caused by you. We know that, the police know it, the prosecution knows it, and everyone watching this trial knows it. They could not prove their theory, just the opposite, and yet here we are. For some reason, unbeknownst to us, really bad things happen to really good people, Kouri, and you were just really too good of a person, I guess. I promised Dad a long time ago that I'd always look after you, Mom, and I intend on keeping that promise. We will get through this together, and the injustice that's occurred here in this courtroom, it'll be righted in time. Your innocence will shine too brightly to be contained once you've actually had a fair shot at defending yourself. When the day comes, I just know somehow that you're going to change a lot of lives that really need your help. And until then, little sister, just know. Just know that I'm right by your side, and I'll always be right here for you. I love you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ramos.
Morning, Judge. Your Honor, I want to maybe begin by speaking just plainly and honestly. I disagree with the jury's verdict. I'm deeply saddened by the way that justice was rendered in this case. I don't believe that this outcome fully reflects the truth or the humanity involved. But our Constitution demands something difficult of all of us, especially of officers of the court. It demands restraint. It demands respect for the process even when the outcome wounds us. And so, while I disagree with the verdict, I respect the jury's decision. And while I disagree with many of this court's rulings, I respect the lawful authority of this court and of Your Honor. This is because the rule of law only survives if we continue to honor it even in moments of disappointment and pain. But as a Catholic, there's one authority higher than any courtroom, verdict, or government power, and that is God. I say that as a reminder of humanity and of human limitation. Our system of justice is imperfect because every human is imperfect. I think that humility matters here today. It matters because the sentence of life without parole risks becoming something greater than punishment. It risks becoming the declaration that redemption no longer matters. The late Pope Francis said that life without parole is just a death penalty in disguise because it extinguishes something fundamental to human dignity, and that is hope. Hope to all involved, victims, condemned alike. Refusing to impose a sentence of life without parole today doesn't mean Kouri is going to walk free. It doesn't mean that she will someday leave custody. She may very well spend the rest of her natural life in prison. It also does not mean that her victims who have spoken today, her kids, doesn't mean that they have to forgive her. They may never change their minds. They may never forgive their mother. And also, no court has the authority to demand that they do. But refusing to impose a sentence of life without parole does mean that we do not close the door completely. It means we do not presume to know with absolute certainty what a human life, victim or condemned, may become decades from now. It means that we do not extinguish hope entirely. Time changes people, pain changes people, grief changes people. Even victims and victims' families over years and decades sometimes arrive at places their present suffering could never foresee. Some discover forgiveness, some discover peace, some simply discover that healing and permanent condemnation are not always the same thing. And others don't. A sentence of life without parole assumes none of that human change matters. Not the change in the person condemned, not the change in those harmed. A life without parole sentence freezes every human being, victim and condemned, inside the worst moment of their life and declares that moment permanent. Our Constitution demands more restraint than that, because a real measure of justice is not what we do when mercy is easy. It is whether we preserve humanity when mercy is hardest. No sentence handed down today will undo suffering. A different verdict wouldn't have reversed tragedy. But there is a profound moral difference between saying you must be punished and saying you are beyond redemption forever. One is justice restrained by humility. The other risks becoming judgment without end. And no human institution possesses the moral certainty to make that judgment absolutely. That lies with God alone. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Rose.
Your Honor, I told you in the opening statements that we were going to do something a little bit different when we called upon some perspectives of people that don't even know Kouri, but that have been through this horrific journey through no choice of their own. One is from a mother whose son was murdered. Again, we're gonna just share her name with only the court and the prosecution. Honorable Judge Richard Mrazek. I'm going to skip the names, including the name of her son. My son was murdered almost 30 years ago in a random act of violence. He was only 18 years old. The man who killed him was just a few months older. I know the kind of grief that changes your life. I have felt the despair, darkness, and rage that comes from that loss. I know what it's like to try to rebuild your life with a heart that will never be whole again. And I know what it feels like to believe that the only thing that will ease that pain is inflicting pain on the person responsible for never getting another day with the one you love. I grieve with the family of Eric Richins. I am heartbroken for them, especially his children. And I want to be clear that nothing I'm sharing today about the criminal justice system and its many failings should be taken as any sort of criticism of them and how they feel or act in their grief. But I feel compelled to share my perspective with the court because I wish I had known what might be on the other side of experiencing the grief of losing my son and trying to navigate the criminal justice process at the same time. And I don't envy the decisions you have to make. I only want to tell you a little of what one broken-hearted mother has learned, and that is that the criminal justice system needs more humanity. It needs more mercy. And I know this because of the man who murdered my son. Sending someone to prison without the possibility of parole should be reserved for the very rare, absolutely most heinous cases. Sending someone to prison without the possibility of parole is to decide they are irredeemable, that they are not capable of change, and will never be worthy of our trust again. It is a fate so bleak, I am not sure how anyone survives it, let alone do what my son's killer did. He went into the worst place imaginable and found a way to be a better human being. He spent the first 18 years of his adult life in maximum security. Those who are sentenced to life without the possibility of parole have few opportunities to participate in programs or work because resources are limited, and why would they waste them on someone who's never getting out of prison? The criminal justice system has gotten better and better at punishment. Mercy has almost been extinguished. We're supposed to find a balance. We're supposed to remember that these are human beings, and these decisions will ripple through generations, even strangers. I am afraid with the increasing number of people sentenced to life without even the possibility of parole, we've decided it's easier to throw people away than to try and help them change, or even allow them to try and make amends for their mistakes. Far too often we let our fear and our pain put the focus on punishment with no consideration for mercy. I did that. I wanted the man who killed my son to die. I wanted him to suffer. I didn't care what happened to him as long as he never got out of prison. But as much as I know about pain and loss, I know more about hope and forgiveness, and that's thanks in part to the man who killed my son. He was sent to one of the worst places in the world and became one of the best people I know. Nearly 20 years after my son's death, I received a letter he wrote, expressing his sorrow and his remorse. His apology helped me heal, deepened my forgiveness, and created a bond that continues to bless the lives of many people. I know that every case is different, but I also know the power of hope. I believe in second chances. I believe a life sentence imposes punishment without destroying hope. My personal hope for Kouri is that she does what that individual did, that she finds a way to become a better person no matter what. I thank you for taking the time to read this letter. I know it's a heavy burden to make this decision. I express love and support to those involved and pray we'll all be better to each other. And then I also would have one more, and then we have someone who's going to testify on WebEx. Speak on WebEx, not testify, sorry, speak on WebEx. This is very short, Your Honor. It is from a former prosecutor that imposed these types of punishments. Thank you so much. Also, I'm keeping his name private. As a matter of fact, I'm going to skip the very first sentence because it would reveal who he is. So I'll just let the court read the first sentence quietly. I was in charge of the prosecution of a young man who committed 2 serious homicides at the Log Haven restaurant. He was prosecuted and found guilty. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive 5-to-life terms. 20 years later, while no longer a prosecutor, I happened to be at the Utah State Prison on government business. I was given a tour of the prison industries unit, and I saw an individual sitting at a large desk in front of a bank of computers. I asked about him and was told that he was the individual who had committed the crimes at Log Haven. I was told he was a model inmate, spoke 5 languages, had 2 master's degrees from Utah State, and was used as a go-between when there was unrest among inmates. He was respected by his fellow inmates. He was indispensable at the industries and had set up the entire computer system to run the unit. Coincidentally, the very next day I was speaking with the son-in-law of the father of one of the victims. He related to me how there had been a complete reconciliation between their family and the killer of their son. They had long ago forgiven him and wondered if I could help getting him paroled. I still had connections in the criminal justice system, and I told them I would try. I subsequently met with him at the prison, and I was equally impressed with how he had turned his life around. We were able to get him an expedited parole hearing. Tragically, he died from suicide a few months later when he was falsely accused of inappropriate access of the state computer system and removed from his position into a secure unit of the prison. This case was a textbook lesson of how rehabilitation can work. He was not the same cocky druggie that we sent to prison 20 years ago. I saw absolutely no reason why he needed to spend more years in custody. Even his fellow inmates told me they were convinced he had done everything to reform himself and become a valuable member of society. I agreed. Keeping someone incarcerated when they've proven themselves is just plain wrong. Prison sentences without possibility of parole create the same issue. I believe it should be reserved for the most violent and dangerous of individuals. Thank you for taking the time to read this. And then Ms. Lewis will introduce the final speaker, and then she'll have her comments, and then we'll take that break.
Who is the person you'd like me to invite?
Emory Blanchard.
One moment, please. Emory, if you'd please unmute your audio, I'd appreciate it.
Are we able to see her?
Oh, my apologies. Thank you. Emory, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay. Ms. Lewis is going to make an introduction, and then you'll be free to make your statement.
Emory Blanchard understands what no one else in this courtroom understands. What the 3 children of Kouri and Eric are going through. When Emory was 12, I believe, she can correct me if I'm off there a little bit, her father violently killed her mother while she and her brother were in the next room. He was convicted, and it was, the state was seeking death, but ultimately he, at that time, when the jury couldn't decide unanimously on death, he was sentenced to life with the possibility of parole. And I'm gonna let Emory take it from there and say what she wants to say.
Emory, please proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon. I was asked here today to speak about a personal experience. My name is Emory Blanchard. I grew up in Park City, and in 1995, when I was 13, my father murdered my mother, Patty. It was a brutal and premeditated murder, and I was in the house when it happened and witnessed it. It was a death penalty case, but my father was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole. At the time, I wanted him to go to prison for a long time, and I didn't want to see him again. I was afraid for my life and safety as well. My mother's parents and uncle raised me. We would refuse phone calls from the prison, but my family collected every letter he sent and saved them in boxes, just in case I ever wanted to read them. In a short 4 years, when I was about to turn 18, I decided I wanted to see my dad. I had questions regarding the murder that I needed answered for my own mental health. My amazing grandmother offered to take me to the prison while I was a minor if I wanted to see my dad. I wanted to spare her from having to face the man who killed her daughter, so I waited until I was 18 and could go to the prison on my own. I didn't know if I would be fearful of my father, or perhaps even so angry that I might attack him. None of that happened. The moment I saw him for the first time in over 4 years, he simply hung his head and said to me, "I'm sorry." We both burst into tears and held each other. I felt safe and as whole as possible again in his embrace. Yes, this was the man who killed my wonderful mother, but at that moment I realized he was still my dad, and I still needed him. The next decades were good at times and very hard at times. Many years I visited my dad often in prison. Some years were exceptionally hard for me, and I chose not to see him at all. I experienced a full range of emotions, and all of them were valid. I knew for my own health and peace I had to learn to let go and forgive. No easy task, but this is when I truly mastered empathy and compassion. My father served 25 years until his first parole hearing. I was for parole, but nevertheless he was denied and given another 5 years. At his age, I knew it was a death sentence, and it was. Just last year, after 30 years of incarceration, he died 4 days shy of his 81st birthday. My second worst nightmare came true, the first being my mom being murdered. I was not able to see him while he was dying. There was no compassionate release. Some may say he deserved that, and maybe he did. I can tell you that no amount of time served ever made this situation right. 20 years, 30 years, and even death. None of it can bring back my mom or repair the immeasurable damage that he caused me and my family. Once 20 years had passed, my grandmother even said to me, "It's been long enough. You want your dad." I wanted my mom, but I did still have a living parent, and I needed him. I don't tell you this story to tell you how to feel or that I understand how you feel. I'm offering that hearts and feelings can change over the years. To honor my mother, I'm a victim advocate who supports people in domestic violence situations, and I now help people with PTSD heal at my ranch in southern Utah using nature, horses, and farm animals as teachers. I teach compassion for humans and animals alike, and I found a way to turn my pain into purpose. But I will tell you honestly that life is still hard, and losing both of my parents at that young age harmed me greatly and left me with a very sad and lonely heart. No amount of prison time made me feel better, and in the later years, my father's incarceration wore on me severely. What I will leave you with is this: hold tightly to the good memories of your father, and in time, perhaps your mother too. Cling to your family and siblings for love and support. Please let love reside in your hearts and not hate. I pray for your family and for your peace and healing, and thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Emory, thank you very much.
Thank you, Emory. Your Honor, there is so much more to sentencing a person than punishment. That is why in sentencing someone, the court must consider the totality of the circumstances, the whole person, and who that person is beyond their worst act. In their sentencing memo, the state cited to State v. Holland, which was a death penalty case. The state quoted the court as follows: "The psychological reality is that aggravating circumstances in first-degree murder cases will virtually always outweigh mitigating circumstances. However, what the state left out is what the court said next, which was that the Eighth Amendment doesn't allow the death penalty in every case, and courts must take a long, hard look at the totality of the circumstances, the values of society, and the value of all human life. And though this is not a death penalty case, the same would apply to a sentence of life without the possibility of parole." Ms. Nestor spoke a little bit about what a life without parole sentence looks like. Locked down for 23 hours a day. If we treated our dogs like this, they would be taken away. Yet, this is how the state wants Kouri Richins to be treated. A sentence of life without parole is saved for only the most heinous of crimes. The state wants to place Kouri in that category. They say she is in that category, but this simply is not the type of crime that we typically see get a sentence of life without parole. Currently, there are approximately only 72 people in Utah serving this sentence. These include people such as Edward Deli, the co-defendant of Vaughn Taylor, who is currently on death row. They killed 2 women, kidnapped 2 young girls, and attempted to kill those girls' father by lighting their cabin on fire. I believe that was in Summit County. It includes Daniel Ray Troyer, a serial killer and rapist of women in their 80s. He was convicted of killing 2 women, admitted to a 3rd, and likely killed a 4th. That authorities are aware of. It includes Matthew John Breck, who kidnapped a 10-year-old girl, stabbed her multiple times, severed her spinal cord, and left her dead on her front porch. It includes numerous individuals who brutally murdered children, some who murdered police officers. There are only a handful of people serving life without the possibility of parole for killing a spouse. And in all but one of these that I could find, they killed more than just their spouse. They are individuals who killed their spouse and a child, or killed their spouse and someone else in the process. The only one I'm aware of who killed a spouse and no other individual is Craig Crawford, who set fire to the home of his estranged husband, leaving him to die in the fire. And then there are individuals serving sentences of 15 to life who committed arguably more heinous acts than what Kouri Richins has been convicted of. Eric Sampson abused his wife for 28 years, ultimately killing her in their St. George home, leaving her dead in their bed. He continues to maintain his innocence, and he's serving 15 to life. John Weston Erickson stabbed his wife to death in front of their 2 young children, also injuring his 7-year-old daughter, who attempted to wrestle the knife out of his hand, serving 15 to life. Joseph Castillo, his wife, stabbed his wife to death in their garage while his teenage son tried to stop the attack. These men are all serving 15 to life sentences. There are many more examples. Murder is the worst of all crimes, but to say that this particular case is the worst of the worst is simply not true. The state chose the evidence they put forth to obtain their conviction, yet they are not satisfied with what was presented in this court and to the jury, and instead they waited until 2 days before the sentencing hearing and publicly filed what can only be described as a character assassination, filled with unsubstantiated claims from unknown and unsworn sources who will never be cross-examined about these claims. The timing of this filing was no coincidence and left no time for our team to arrange rebuttal witnesses or evidence. Furthermore, it appears that the sentencing memo was not a so subtle attempt to get into the public eye evidence they elected to hold back from their case in chief, and then were precluded from presenting when Ms. Richins exercised her Fifth Amendment right to remain silent and submitted the case to the jury without putting on any evidence. To allow the state to use this sentencing hearing as a public platform to make new unsworn allegations untested by cross-examination or sufficient investigation would violate Ms. Richins' right to due process and would be contrary to the Utah Supreme Court's finding in State versus Leniency. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I have the site if you want it. Which stating that the due process clause of Article 1, Section 7 of the Utah Constitution requires that a sentencing judge act on reasonably reliable and relevant information and exercising discretion in fixing a sentence. The state's memo should be stricken in its entirety and not considered by this court. Not only are the claims made by the state in their sentencing memo unreliable and irrelevant, much of what they argue is either misleading or outright false. I'm not going to go into everything that we take issue with, but I do want to point out a couple of examples. They state that DCFS supported a finding of emotional and physical abuse by Kouri against her oldest son. What actually happened is that DCFS made an initial finding based solely on reports. This is similar to a probable cause finding that then sends the matter to the juvenile court. The court, however, did not find that Kouri had abused or neglected her children. They found dependent but no fault. In other words, that the children needed intervention, but due to no fault of Kouri Richins, due only to the fact that she had been arrested. They did not even find that she had acted negligently towards her children. The state put forth at length what they believe Kouri's middle son, A.R., would have testified to had they been able to call him in rebuttal. Although it is true that Ashton said these things 3 years after the death of his father and after conversations with Eric's family members, this is very different than what he said to law enforcement immediately upon Kouri's arrest a year after Eric's death. At that time, his statements were completely consistent with Kouri's, that Kouri, had gone to sleep in his room the night his father died. The state argues that Kouri's boys are afraid in part because she still maintains life insurance policies on them. Kouri was of the belief that these policies were no longer in existence since she had not made any payments on them in over 3 years. And in fact, a letter was sent, or an email was sent from Brian Freckleton, who testified, to Ronnie Darden, as Ronnie is the owner on these policies, that this was over a year ago, that the life insurance policies are lapsing, and wanted to let them know if they chose to do anything about that, which they did not do anything about that. So we only discovered yesterday, Kouri only discovered yesterday that at least 2 of these policies are still active, as the payments have been automatically taken out of dividends. So in other words, the policies have been paying for themselves. These are policies that Eric and Kouri took out together in 2017. However, now that Kouri knows that these are still active, she will cancel them. Hopefully, in all sincerity, this will be one less thing for those boys to worry about. Kouri never asked her family to report criminal activity or ask for criminal prosecutions against any of the Richins family or against Cody Ray. She never asked family members to file bar complaints. And until yesterday, neither Kouri nor anyone from her team had ever heard anything about a dating profile being set up online in the name of a lead detective. She did none of these things. And if they were done by others, it was not at her request. We are asking the court to discount any and all allegations in the sentencing memo that have not been previously raised in court in order to be stricken from the record. The court does have before it reasonable and reliable testimony from individuals who know Kouri or who have unique perspectives on the sentence of life without parole that may assist this court in discerning the appropriate and proportionate punishment in this case. The testimony of these individuals revealed that Kouri is so much more than what she has been portrayed as in this case. Everyone who was around her says she was a wonderful mother, just like Eric was a wonderful father. The state argues that she shows no remorse. Kouri has remorse and she has regrets about many things, and you're going to hear some of those when she speaks. However, she cannot show remorse over something she did not do. She maintains her innocence and has every right to do so. Having said that, however, she stands before this court today convicted of the crimes charged, and she fully understands that. So sentence her on what she was convicted of, not what the prosecution says about her character. As much as they think they know her, they do not. They do not know Kouri Richins. Like Alex said, we're saddened by this case. We are saddened by the verdict. I respect the court system so much. I come from a family of judges and attorneys and was raised with the utmost respect for our justice system. I disagree with the verdict, but I respect it. I have to say, though, in all the years of practicing, which are now quite a few, this is the first time I've had a client convicted that I believe to be innocent. It was much more painful than I would have anticipated. Over the last 2 years, our team has got to know Kouri. Kouri is one of those clients, very few clients, and I've represented thousands of people. Most of them you don't remember. Many of them you don't like. Many of them, some of them, you feel are dangerous. But Kouri is different. Kouri, every time she calls, asks how we are. There have been times when I've shared bits of my life with Kouri, particularly having children that lost their father before age 10. We've talked a lot about that and what that does to children in the best of circumstances. I can't imagine had my boys not had me. Because the pain and suffering and the long-term effect that has had on them will never, ever end. But when I share something with Kouri, when I share that someone is ill or that someone is having a problem, sometimes I don't even remember I've said it, and when she calls me, she always asks, how did that turn out? You know, is your family member okay? Before we talk about her. Every time. The state is not only asking for life without the possibility of parole, they're asking for consecutive sentences. The sentences in this matter should run concurrent to one another. Pursuant to the line of cases, Strunk, Golly, and Smith, the sentencing statute favors concurrent sentences. And looking at the totality of the circumstances, imposing consecutive sentence would constitute an abuse of discretion. In State v. Gray, the Utah Court of Appeals cited Golly and Strunk, holding that the Board of Prisons' ability to grant parole is an integrated component of the rehabilitative needs factor that must be balanced with other required factors. Even though the statutory language has been modified since Strunk, Golly, and Smith, the language still applies. And the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals still looks to that language. The board should still be allowed to function and make the decision regarding the rehabilitative needs of Ms. Richins. Running sentences consecutive to a sentence of life without parole is senseless. And if this court imposes a sentence of 25 to life on the aggravated murder, but runs the other charges consecutive, the effect will be the same. She will likely never get the opportunity for parole.
I don't think that's true. Have you run the initial guideline? It's a genuine question.
Yes.
I think it only adds.
The guideline on the attempted murder is 192
It only
months.
adds 41 months if we run them consecutive.
Before she's eligible
Right.
for parole. But, well, I'm going to come back to that.
Yeah, if
I will.
you're running the guideline differently, I'd like to know.
I mean, no, I'm not running the guidelines differently, but the sentence is, well, I talked about
understand
this.
your larger point, and I apologize for
That's
interrupting
okay.
you, but if you do have a different running of the guidelines, those forms are not obvious, I'd appreciate knowing.
Well, I would say a sentence of 25 to life, and then if she serves additional time, does not guarantee parole. And I'm going to talk more about that.
Okay.
And it's almost unheard of for someone to be paroled at their first parole hearing on these serious offenses. And looking at the totality, there are mitigators. Kouri had no criminal history at the time of Eric's death. She was involved in positive ways in her community. She volunteered regularly. She headed up a sub for Santa every year. She was a friend, a daughter, and a mother, and excelled in these roles. She educated herself. She was involved in every aspect of her son's lives. There is no reason to hold her in prison for life. We asked this court to impose a sentence of 25 years to life. When you put aside all of the media, all of the injuries, and you look at the crime she is convicted of, this is an appropriate sentence. A sentence of 25 to life is not a sentence that guarantees the release of Kouri Richins. It is not saying that she even should be released. What it is saying is that the decision whether she should be released is a decision for someone else to make on another day. A day that will be, at a minimum, 25 to 30 years in the future. A future that could look very different than today. Although today is not a day for forgiveness, that day may come. A sentence that allows for parole is a sentence that gives a pathway to forgiveness. You heard from Emory Blanchard, the only person in this room that understands what the Richins boys have been through. You heard how the day came when she missed her father. She wanted her father in her life. I know that she came to a place that she hoped to spend one more day outside of the prison walls with her father. And that day didn't come. He was not paroled, and he died in prison. I don't minimize what Kouri's boys are saying today. I understand it's contradictory to what other people are saying regarding Kouri as a mother. I don't know why they're saying these things, but what they think and feel today, they are allowed to think and feel those things. They should be. Their feelings are valid, and it's okay. And I think Kouri will say this too, but she wants her boys to know it's okay. People change. All of us change. Kouri will change. Those little boys will change. A sentence of 25 to life will not be easy time. It will be hard time. The first part of that sentence is generally served in maximum security for the first 3 to 4 years. But if the day comes when her children want to see her face to face, a 25 to life sentence will make that easier for them. If they, like Emory, decide someday they want a relationship with her, even one behind the walls of the prison, a 25 to life will make that possible. And a sentence with the possibility of parole, like I said, does not mean she will be paroled. It's very possible she will spend her life in prison. And quite frankly, if her case does not come back on appeal, and she is in prison and she maintains her innocence, parole's highly unlikely. But the Board of Pardons is uniquely qualified to make that decision. That is their job. And it is a particularly important job in the most serious of convictions. They will be the ones looking at a woman who will then be in her 60s or possibly 70s. They will decide if she has been rehabilitated and if she is a danger to the community. These are not decisions that can be made today. We don't stand here today asking you to give her a second chance. We ask you to let those best qualified make that decision when the time comes. When Kouri's and Eric's boys are grown. When they can tell the board if they feel the same way that they do today. You heard a letter read today from a woman who once stood in the shoes of the Richins family. At sentencing, she wanted life without parole for her son's killer. Now she does not. She has changed. Her views of prison have changed, and her feelings towards the man that took her son's life has changed. But a life without the possibility of parole, the sentence cannot be changed. If Kouri and Eric's boys someday change their mind, and it is too late to say something different than what they've said today, this day will become one more day that haunts them. If in 30 years they still do feel as they do today, they will have the opportunity to express those feelings. But don't allow their statements at age 9, 12, and 13 become another tragedy, another trauma that they may end up suffering as adults. A sentence that doesn't allow even the possibility of parole is a sentence that tells the world there is no hope. There is no growth. There is no change. There is no room for forgiveness. There is no room for love. That we are all our worst act and will never be anything more. And that is not the human experience. In a world where humanity is waning, act with humanity. In a world where hatred is encouraged, act with kindness. In a world where forgiveness is seen as a weakness, act with compassion. A sentence of 25 to life with the other charges turned concurrent reflects the seriousness of this offense, takes into consideration the totality of the circumstances. Further, it follows the recommendation of the pre-sentence report, and it is the appropriate sentence in this matter.